Hi everyone and welcome to my channel. For those new here, my name's Nicki. I'm an author and editor and I post videos here on YouTube about writing, editing, reading and all the other things I love. Today you're here for an Ask an Author video and what I'd like to talk about is transmedia for indie authors. First off, I thought it would be helpful if I just do a little overview of what is transmedia. Some of you may have heard of this term, some may not. The best way to think about it is to say that you're telling a story across many different forms of media. So in the case of us writers, our main form will of course be our books. However, if we want to explore the idea of transmedia, we need to also be sharing information on the story in other manners. Some examples of other previous ways this has been done. The Matrix, for example, had its 3 feature films, but it also had a lot of shorts and animes that highlighted different sections of the story that weren't included in the films. Another place where it was done, and even more successfully I think, took it to the next level, was the TV show Heroes, which had of course its weekly episodes, but in between those there were little short webisodes online and also web comics. And the web comics in particular were quite clever because they gave you sections of story that we didn't see on screen. So if one of the characters left for a couple of episodes to do something, we might not have seen what they were doing, but we did get shown it later in a webcomic. So that's transmedia. It's a manner of showing the same story spread over different media, so you have to go to all the different places to get the full experience. And usually the idea is that the main form, so in the case of Heroes, the TV show, that should be enough that people can watch just that and still understand everything. But the transmedia elements of the webcomics and webisodes allow hardcore fans to go off and get even more information and get a fuller experience, if you like. So how can indie authors do this? In one way it's very hard because obviously there's a lot of expense involved in the way that they do it with big blockbuster movies or TV series. You know, someone has to create comics, webisodes and things like that. Perhaps there's an app they've created that goes with a film. And that's all an expense, time consuming as well. And so what are some options for indie authors? I'm a real big fan of the idea of transmedia, and it's something I'd like to try and do with some of my books, so I've been trying to think of a few ways that it would be possible. And I thought I'd share those with you today in case any of you are keen to do something similar. I've got 6 ideas for you, so we'll kick straight off with number 1, which is artwork. This is a difficult one in a way because there's a fine line between what's transmedia and what's just additional material. So take for example with artwork, if you just did a portrait of your character, I think that would probably just be additional material. Yes, you're showing them what your character looks like, but that's the only real value you're adding, and some people prefer to imagine the characters for themselves anyway. However, what if you did a piece of artwork that showed a missing scene? So something that happened in the story off page and you do an artwork for it. Then that I would say would be transmedia because you're giving additional information to the story that wasn't seen in the original media, in the original medium. Leading on from that brings us to the second point, which is a comic. Obviously a little bit more work involved here than in a single page artwork, but again you could show a missing scene or perhaps a prologue or epilogue, something that links into the story but that isn't told within the book. A comic would work quite well for this. It wouldn't necessarily have to be something long, maybe 4 to 6 pages, just showing something that was missing that we didn't get from the text. And on a similar vein, number 3 would be a webisode, or a sort of little short film on the web. This of my ideas here is probably the most time consuming and difficult to produce for an indie author, and it would probably rely on you having some friends who were into acting, who you could rope in to work for you for free and produce a little 10-minute film or something. Obviously it's fairly easy to film, you can even do it on phones and that these days and get a decent quality film, but it would be the actors and things like that that would be your hardest point, I think. And this would probably tend to work better for a contemporary story as opposed to a fantasy, because once you go to speculative fiction you're probably going to need special effects and that would potentially be cost prohibitive or even talent prohibitive if you haven't got someone who can do it for you. So it's something to consider, but maybe more for a contemporary story that's very easy to film. And again, you can look at doing an epilogue, a prologue, a missing scene. on, number 4 is music, and this might work really well if one of your characters is a singer or in a band, and you can create some original songs for them. If you're a full-on musician, you could try making lyrics and words, lyrics and music, and filming it, record yourself playing, singing the song, put it up on YouTube or the like, SoundCloud, and that's a nice additional resource for your fans that you mention the songs the bands perform and they can actually go and hear them. If you don't feel confident enough to do all the music side of things, you could at least write the lyrics and have lyrics for the band songs available somewhere online where the fans can go and download, read them, and perhaps that some of them might set them to music themselves and you'll get a bit of sort of fan material, derivative work from that. So that's another option, and it probably works best if your characters are musicians in the story. That would be transmedia. What wouldn't be transmedia is putting up a playlist of songs that inspired you when writing the piece, or songs that make you think of your character. That would just be additional information because it's not really adding anything to the story. It's talking about your process, how you view the characters, how you think of the story, but it's not adding information to the tale or to the world of the story for the readers. Number 5, interactive games. I think this would work quite well if you had a kind of mystery aspect to your story, and it could also work very well as a pre-release strategy, that you maybe have an interactive game on your website where readers have to follow clues, and it could be done in the form of almost a prologue to the story, an introduction to the characters, and there'd be a prize or some sort at the end, and that would give your readers an introduction to the character, to the world, and hopefully then make them want to buy the book when the book comes out. And if you can link that game and that prologue to what's going to happen in the main story, that's even better and even stronger transmedia experience. And finally, 6, tweets. I think Twitter is a really handy resource for transmedia. There's a few ways you could do this. You could set up a Twitter account for one of the characters and have them tweet almost a little prologue introducing themselves and their lives before the book comes out. You could even do tweeting a section a day and write the prologue in tweets before the book comes out. Or another option would be, if you've got a book where dates are important, you might want to do a kind of read-along setup once the book releases, and you can have a page either for the book or for one of the characters where you put up tweets relating to that read-along, sharing additional information. If it's a character, they can be tweeting their thoughts and feelings about what's happening at that point in the story. Or if you're doing just a Twitter account for the book itself, you could share some information on the writing of it, but more importantly, some background information on what's happening in the story here, like things that are happening off screen perhaps that the readers don't know about. So those are 6 ideas for how you could incorporate some minor elements of transmedia in your indie book. I hope you found it useful. If any of you have got any queries about any of the points I mentioned, if you've got some ideas perhaps for how you do your own transmedia experiences, pop them in the comments below and I look forward to reading them and answering your questions if I can. Otherwise I will finish there for now. I think that about covers our topic, so I will close, but I will see you all again for a new blog very soon. Bye for now, everyone.